Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer and today I'm gamesplaining Maracaibo. So Maracaibo is a 1 to 4 player game put out by Capstone Games last year, 2019. This is seen as being the spiritual successor to Great Western Trail. Now Great Western Trail I absolutely adore. I think it's such a beautiful game. I can see the similarities between Maracaibo and Great Western Trail. This, however, feels like it's a little bit too finicky, is probably the best word for it. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. To be 100% honest with you, the aim of the game, or the way that you move through your turn, is you move a boat up 7 spots, do one of two things depending on what type of thing you've stopped on, and then replace your hand of cards. That's in essence the game. But there's a whole bunch more of it. Yes, we're following a track around, and whenever someone gets to the top, everyone will finish their way around the track, which sounds very much like Great Western Trail. You will pick which spots you stop on. In Great Western Trail, I think you can only move up to 3 spots. In this one, you can move up to 7 spots with your turn, which is fine, and that all works fine. What happens is you have a board that has about 12 different spots on it. Each spot is covered by 2 little markers. You need to get them removed to enable you to do other stuff to get extra points or extra money. You have a hand of cards. You can put those cards down as cards that you are going to eventually get, or you can use those cards for a little symbol that's on them. That's fine. The cards that you can eventually get, you will pay for. This is one of the actions. You will pay for those cards to then move them and get the bonus that's on the bottom. That's fine. You will go into battle. This is where the game gets a little bit hairy in terms of the understanding or the remembering stuff going on, because you're going to have to use a certain amount of ability from either yourself or a card. You're choosing between 2 cards, so you've got a certain number of cutlasses that are on those cards that you're choosing, and then you're choosing to add on to that. If you're going to a space that is empty, it's going to be 4 cutlasses. If it's going to be a space that has another country on it, so another one of the 3 colours, it's going to cost you 6 cutlasses to be able to take that. This is where it gets a little bit interesting, that you take the spot, you spend all the cutlasses, you might move down the track, or you may remove meeples from your pool that you can use in order to get up to that magic number. And then you move along your track on that particular country, and the distance you are on that track at the end of the game multiplies by how many cubes have been removed from there. And there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of math going on, which it doesn't quite feel comfortable. And that's probably the essence of this game. It's not quite comfortable. It feels like it should be. When we talk about it, each little element, you go, yeah, I get it. But then you get to a point where you're like, I think I'm doing this. And that's really the downfall of this game. I think that there's something with just the ease of playing on Great Western Trail that Maracaibo doesn't quite have. A lot of other reviewers have put this as one of their top games from last year, and I can see why. I can get that. But the actual getting it to the table is a totally different aspect. I played it with my daughter, and you could sense that she just wasn't having fun all the way through. And all the way through, she was like, I think I got to do this. There's something that just gets in the way of the understanding on this game with how to play it. It just kind of, there's a lot going on, let's be honest about it. Now, I don't hate the game. I actually I get it, I understand it, but I've got to have people who are also on the same page to enable that to move forward. I don't think that I've got that at the moment. So this game, while it got played this month, or last month, or in the lead up to this video, should I say, I'm not sure how much more play this game is going to get. And I fear it's going to get pushed to the realms of Cooper Island, or games that I kind of enjoyed playing, but they're really hard to get to the table unless you already know what's happening. I think that might be an issue with a lot of the larger, heavier games, that if you know what's going on, they make sense. but there's a real barrier of entry, a relatively large leap of getting an understanding of the game. And let's be honest, with the amount of games that are in the collection at the moment, the amount of games that are coming out, it's really hard to get a game that you must play in order to learn and then play it again to kind of solidify. And then probably from about the third play on, you're understanding what's going on. I find that really difficult in the current climate of where games are at. Now, obviously this year's been a little bit more lax on games coming out. They haven't been hitting quite as hard as they have in previous years, but there's still a lot of games around, a lot of games coming out that need attention, and I think that heavier games that have an easier rule set can still be heavy. They don't have to have all this finickiness going on. And this is, let's be honest, this is a heavier game. On Board Game Geek at the moment, it's marked as a 3.8-ish, 3.8, 3.9, somewhere in that space, which is an indication of a heavy game. Not a heavy game, not a Vita Lasada heavy game, but it's a relatively heavy game. I wonder if games that are in that space need to have a ease of playing rule set in order for them to be able to get to the table more often. Don't misunderstand me. I don't hate rules. I don't hate having a lot of rules, but there needs to be an understanding of you do this and all this other stuff happens, but how am I going to remember all of this other stuff? What's leading me through that other stuffness of this game? The art on this game I quite appreciate. It's nice. It feels gamey. The whole concept of you're getting points by putting this country to battle, and you're moving along your ownership points, and at the end of the game you're going to get where your ownership points is multiplied by the numbers that have been uncovered by removing the cubes. There's also a multiplier you're going to get by having the highest ownership of a particular country against how many are on the board. There seems like there's a lot of math going on at the end of this game. And it's, once again, it's one of those things that feels like it probably bogs this game down just a little bit, is just that mathiness of it. I personally much prefer Great Western Trail. I think it's an easier game to flow through. While it's still got the similar kind of ideas going on of the movement and you're doing this to do this and this. It just seems like it's an easier choice, whereas this one not so much. Now, Maracaibo also has a campaign version. Now, I haven't played the campaign version, but it looks like it will add extra things onto the board so that when I'm moving around there, at the moment, there are only 5 real spots to go to with a whole bunch of in-between things. I think that the campaign adds extra stuff in to what you can do when you stop places or giving spots to go to, which will add extra stuff. And you know what? I may actually appreciate the game more if I was to play that. But in order to get to play that, you've got to have other people who are willing to play multiple times through to enable that to happen, to move you forward with that campaign. And it's really a story. And that's kind of what this game comes down to, is the game that I have videoed, the game that I'm talking about is a standalone game. But the game as a campaign is actually a story, and you're pushing through that story depending on which cards come out and which things you do as you're playing through it. And look, I appreciate that, but I have found that with any campaign game, with any legacy game, that really requires you to have similar people kind of pushing through it, or at least a group that are willing to jump in on that. And let's be honest, if you're playing a campaign game, you don't want to be playing with people who've never played the game before. You need people who have played before. So you are going to keep the same kinds of people around you. To get that kind of group together to play the same game multiple times is next to impossible in my current groups. I understand there are groups that just go, okay, we're going to get together and we're going to play Maracaibo for the next however many weeks. We're going to get together and we're going to play Scythe for the next however many weeks, or whatever game it is that has that campaign module or that campaign-ness, Gloomhaven, for the next however many weeks that they think it's going to take. I just don't have that. I have groups that I will play with, and it's really rare for them to see the same game on the table more than once, especially more than once in a year. They might get the same game coming out in a little bit times later, depending on the size of that group or how many people are turning up. So anyway, look, Maracaibo, it plays relatively simply, but the understanding of it not as simple. I think I will leave it there. If you have played Maracaibo or you want to see what Maracaibo is about, please go ahead and watch my Gamesplanation. I have done 2 gameplay videos, by the way. The second one is just detail. There's no real need to watch it unless you actually need the detail. But go ahead, watch my videos and to get a feel for how the game plays and everything goes on with it. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you would like to be Gamesplaned, please shoot me an email to thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games that I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.